between incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera of the Malawi Congress Party and former leader Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party. Mr. Chakwera, seeking a second and final term, is campaigning on infrastructure project and his historic 2020 court-ordered victory. But he faces criticism over corruption and the worst inflation in decades, with food and fuel shortages leaving millions struggling. 85-year-old Mutharika is making a comeback bid, arguing that Malawi's economy was stronger under his leadership. But questions around his age, health and past corruption scandals hang over his candidacy. Other contenders include former President Joyce Banda, current Vice President Michael Usi, and former Reserve Bank Governor Dalitso Kambabe. Voters say their main concerns are the rising cost of living, corruption, and the impact of extreme weather. Malawi, one of the world's most climate-vulnerable nations, is still recovering from drought and Cyclone Freddy, which killed more than 1,200 people in 2023. The Electoral Commission has until the 24th of September to declare presidential result and until the end of the month for parliamentary tallies. Despite accusations of bias and sporadic violence during the campaign, hopes remain that Malawi's judiciary-backed electoral reforms will ensure a credible vote.
And Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies David Aworawo joins me to talk about the expectations for the Malawi elections. Thank you for joining us at this time. Where there are high stakes in these elections, voters are choosing the next president, members of parliament, local councillors against the backdrop of a worsening economic crisis. What do you make of this?
Thanks for having me. It is an election that the stakes are very high because the two top contenders, Chakwera and Mutharika, are very well known in the politics of Malawi, and either of them stands a chance of winning. And all of this is happening at the time that Malawi is facing intense economic crisis, high inflation. And what the people simply seek is, a government that would make them to live a good life and to have a higher quality of life than what they have now. So the stakes are high, and it is expected that the people will be as enthusiastic as they have been. They will likely vote according to the assessment of who will make Malawi better and who will raise their quality of life.
Mm. And there is concern about the credibility and, robustness of Malawi's judicial law, democratic institution. This race is a two-horse contest between the incumbent and former leader, one facing corruption charges and the other facing some concerns about his age. For both sides, which one would you think is better for the country at this time?
That is difficult to answer between old age and corruption. By the way, the old man, 85-year-old, also had his own corruption allegations when he was a president several years ago. So he is not entirely untainted by allegations of corruption. I personally don't think that an 85-year-old person should be contesting election. Don't forget, his brother, Binguwa Mutharika, died in office in 2012. If an 85-year-old is contesting election, does he also want to die in office like his brother? Mm. So certainly, for me, age, that age is too, the man is too old to come to start contesting election. If you are 70-something, and by the time you are leaving office, you are early 80s, that can still be tolerated. But to start, campaigning and wanting to contest election at 85, it simply is, there's something untidy about that. Even though the 70-year-old man, of course, is also not so young, but at least there's 15 years difference between them. And he too has had his own challenges. But there are other contenders. There are 17 of them. Joyce Banda did well when she was president for 2 years, from 2012 to 2014. And I'm surprised he's not one of the top contenders. I would have wished for a 3-horse race, but we have a 2-horse race now. So between the one that is there now and the one that is very old that was there before, why can't the people of the country go for a younger person who have not been there before? And that is my concern sometimes about politics and elections in Africa.
That's a major concern, especially in Africa, in terms of age, health status, and all of that during elections. But despite accusations of sporadic violence during the campaign, there are hopes that the judiciary will perhaps back some of the electoral reforms and will ensure a credible vote. What role would you say Malawi's judiciary will play in shaping public trust, especially since they are not 2019 elections?
Well, the court provided evidence for its decision in 2019, and the evidence was very clear. People applauded it. It spoke to the independence of the judiciary because the person they ruled against, Mutharika, was the incumbent at that time. Indeed, the political analysts say that that was the first time in Africa where you have, such a court case that goes the way of the opposition. So the judiciary has established itself as independent. They also need to be fair, not be swayed by, sentiment and maybe they like one versus the other. They should just stick to the evidence before them, and how the vote, turns out to be should be the basis for any judicial intervention, if and when necessary. This country has not been known for widespread electoral violence, and hopefully Malawi would go through this election peacefully and they'll move on with their lives. And also hopefully they will vote someone who would have their interests at heart and work to improve the quality of their lives. The fact is that the large number of Malawians they still engage in subsistence agriculture. Any country that is at that level is almost at the lowest level, because after hunting and gathering in the scale of development, the next is subsistence agriculture, which means that the country is basically at a low level in terms of economic development, and also, of course, we are familiar with the poverty and inflation that have taken place in recent times in the country as well. We hope all of these things will be factored in when people go to vote. I mean, voting has started already today. Let us see how things turn out to be as things progress.
And some of the concerns of voters were bordered around the economy, corruption, governance, and all of that. We hope that Malawians make the decision that will be best for the country at this time. That's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. Thank you for talking to us. Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, David Aworawo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.